team sports coming out of a small island nation. That's just
All
my
right, thank you. Thank you, buddy.
All right, thank you.
Let's ask our guest. Good morning, Ramona Ramdial. I think you're muted still. I think you're still muted.
There you go. Good morning.
Morning, how are you going?
I'm good. I'm battling a flu here, but I'm all right.
Your volume is a little low. Would you be able to increase the mic level?
Let's see.
And I could get 2 Panadol.
And what do you have for migraines across there?
So Excedrin, green, all kind of thing. I think I have the mic is fully on.
All right, well, we'll work with it. Yeah, we're hearing you a little better now. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
All right. We were talking about Caricom. Of course, the community is celebrating 50 years, and they have the big conference in Port of Spain. And we were distilling what we thought the accomplishments were, and if you think Caricom has fulfilled its mandate.
Caricom, I would say, has done a pretty good job so far. I mean, we've had our challenges as a region over the, if you look at the history, we've had a history and we've had challenges. But I think what Dr. Rowley and the other regional leaders are trying to do is to forge a stronger bond within the region. I think they've done a good job with Mia Motley, Dr. Rowley, and the other regional leaders, Irfan Ali, coming together really as 3 powerhouses to forge that stronger bond to move forward into the international circle in terms of lobbying for resources for various things. So I think that they've done a pretty good job so far, and I look forward to see what are the results of the summit.
Thank you for joining us. Of course, we want to keep it localized and politics. Is it Couva North or Couva South?
Couva North.
Couva North, former Couva North MP, very prolific columnist in the newspapers and very opinionated. What do you think of these movements of some people in the last 3 or so weeks, 4 weeks, in the lead up to the local government election from the UNC to the PNM? What do you think is the reason for that?
The cause of the defections.
So we're in full campaign mode, as you can see. Over my 10 years as an MP, a minister, and then an opposition MP, I learned quite a few things. And one of the things that is needed within our politics, especially where the opposition forces are concerned, is unity. The history behind the PNM is that they've always been able to hold their base. They've always been able to go alone at it, to fight alone, and to win alone. The history of the UNC and other opposing forces have always been over the years that they need partnerships, coalitions, and we would have seen that in 1986 and 1995 and then in 2010. So putting that aside, in my articles, I've always called for unity amongst the opposing forces. For this local government elections, I think this is an experiment that is happening. We have numerous alliances. We have the alliances with the Reunited Farmers and PEP. We have an alliance with the NTA, with Gary Griffith and the United National Congress. However, with that alliance with the NTA and the UNC, I'm a little bit confused because in the sharing of the seats, in the arrangement, NTA has 31 seats, the United National Congress has 110 seats. And within those 31 seats, you also have UNC in those various regions also contesting the elections. So where you have NTA fighting, you also have UNC, and Dr. Hamid Ghani referred to the challenges that would pose in getting the alderman thereafter within the regional corporations. So it would have been better if the coalition or the accommodation could have been by corporations rather than by seats. Because when now you have to apply the formula for aldermen, it would be separate numbers of votes, as opposed to if you had either UNC or NTA, you would have a greater majority of votes to work with there. So that is quite confusing and baffling to me, because I think the leaders of both parties should have known this. So it begs the question that what is the intention at the end of the day? What is the intention with respect to that alliance?
But do you think the move, because the UNC had been successful in 2010 with a coalition, is it a philosophical position of the party that, well, you know what, we want, because people talk about coalition as if it's a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
So,
It can be very productive for a space. It can open the door for collaboration and not insular thinking or one perspective on particular issues and how to govern a country. So a coalition can be a good thing. Sometimes it's been fed to us as, oh my God, it's a desperation move. Do you think it is driven by a philosophy of coalition or fear that, well, if I don't join, I'm not strong enough to win? Because to me, the UNC has been able to do quite well in local government elections in the past on their own.
yeah. I think I know it's a philosophy of the UNC ever since Bastille Pandey days. There have been coalitions, there have been open doors to leaders from various parties and from various stakeholders. So I think it's a philosophy of the party. But of lately, between 2015 and 2020, Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar took a different approach, where she said, well, we'll go at it alone and we'll win or lose alone. That has been her approach since 2015. Which, in my personal opinion, I think it was a bad decision. So, albeit, now you're hearing a different story from Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar, and it has shown in the local government elections where she, in fact, has accommodated the NTA and has been calling other parties. And I think the NNV with Gavin Nicholas is also there. And she's been calling other parties to work. And she's also mentioned that moving forward to the general elections, that she wants unity with other parties also. So that has changed completely. Her approach has changed completely. So, which is that's a good approach. You need unity, but I mean, you know, my personal opinion, I think with respect to the UNC, we need new leadership. To me, whatever unity is there, the problem is still with the leader and the leadership of the UNC. That needs to be changed.
So you don't think that another accommodation with other parties, and particularly NTA, because I think the NTA is the best known of the group, because, of course, the personality of its leader. Well, both of them have colorful leader personalities, but certainly, I mean, I suppose a lot of people, maybe because of Gary's track record as Commissioner of Police, he probably brings some level of voter maybe in that corner because they know he is capable of doing stuff or getting stuff done. And so do you think that accommodation by the UNC under the stewardship of the current leadership is a good thing in the sense that you think it's going to yield success?
It's left to be seen. Gary has a track record. He has been an excellent Commissioner of Police. He's been responsive as Member of Parliament. I've had a very good working relationship with him with respect to serving constituents and all of that. And I wish him well. But I would be partial to staying in my corner and saying that the issue is not with Gary or the NTA, but with the UNC leadership. And I think in this elections, regardless, the UNC is poised to lose some more seats, more than what they would have.
Where is that coming from? Where are you getting that assessment from?
Well, on the ground, the disenchantment within the membership in the central area, you're seeing people, you're hearing people talking about it. They're saying that, you know, they're fed up of both PNM and UNC. They want to give a new party a chance. And then you're hearing some saying, well, we're fed up with the leadership of our party, meaning the UNC, and that they just won't go out and vote, until something gives in terms of change within the leadership. So we're hearing all of that within the base of the United National Congress. You have had defections. You have had major defections. The latest defection being that of Azim Basarath and another strategist from the Moruga Tableland seat. They moved across to the PNM. Then you had Marcus Gerdari, who was a sitting councillor in San Fernando, who has moved across. You have had the UNC UTARM chair with this big scandal with the check and everything recently, who has also moved across to the PNM. So you've had a lot of defections and a lot of people who are disenchanted and just quietly staying away because of how they feel at this point in time. I think we're going to have a very...
Do you think those defections, because they are clear defections that have taken place, and it's the most defections I've ever seen taken place from the UNC. I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong. But do you think it indicates a possible beginning of a power shift at the leadership level of the UNC, in that, because politics is a very aggressive environment, it's almost like law of the jungle in a certain way, so that if you see whoever is the alpha, and I'm using the word alpha very liberally here, whoever is the alpha is under attack and in a weakened state, whoever believes that they can become the new alpha is starting to slowly circle the bandwagon, so to speak. Would that be something that's occurring in the hierarchy of the party?
Let me ask you a different way. Is this election a watershed moment for Mrs. Pasabi-Sessa's leadership moving forward?
Definitely. That's it. I think I know if she loses this election, there's going to be a move for new leadership within the party. There's going to be a serious move within the party.
What would constitute losing this election? Because it's kind of half now. What do you think would be a significant enough loss if that happens to start that kind of movement to oust? Or what would be a significant win to solidify her position as leader?
Well, it's 7-7 now. So 8-6. 8-6, yeah.
Loss of one corporation, one body.
Yes.
Would indicate that, well, we have problems because there have been two major national election losses.
The loss of one corporation or the loss of more seats as compared to 2019. I don't know that figure offhand in terms of the number of seats that UNC won, but the loss of more seats will definitely stir the membership. The loss of a corporation, the loss of more seats.
Well, this is absolute speculation along the same line, but who do you think would be the successor if that were to happen?
I can't say, because NATEX elections is due next year, and then a leadership elections is due in 2025. The leadership has had a history of doing two elections together, the NATEX and the leadership election. So that may be a possibility next year where you have two elections in one. If the UNC loses the local government elections, the membership may call for internal elections thereafter. So it's left to be seen, but we have a democratic process. From now, I've started saying, if it is that we are to go the way of the internal elections, I'm calling for external observers for that internal elections.
And conversely, if the PNM loses ground, do you think it will have any effect on Dr. Rowley's position as leader?
Yes, I think it will also. Because they say the local government elections is usually an indicator to the general how well you're going to do at the general elections, or how badly you're going to do at the general elections. So both parties are up, under scrutiny. Both parties, their leadership on either side, it's been looked at very closely. And if the PNM loses, there would be calls for new leadership within the rank and file, I'm sure.
You've been hearing the campaigns, and I mean, local is completely different in many ways to a general election. And even in a general election, people beg to hear about the issues. What are you going to do about crime? How are you going to diversify and fix the economy, make it more sustainable and more stable? Are there any issues? I know representation is a big thing in local government election, but are there any issues that you think should be on the forefront in this election in terms of connecting or resonating with the population, the Burgesses, that you are not hearing or that you are hearing?
Well, from the PNM, we're hearing about local government reform, that if they win and you support them, we would get local government reform, which would mean the collection of property taxes to generate revenue for local government. That's what we're hearing.
But even if the PNM doesn't win, that's still law, so it's going to happen anyway.
It's going to happen anyway, correct. But how it's collected, I mean, they are in government, so right now how it's collected, it's going to go to the consolidated fund in one fund, and then it is going to be disbursed accordingly by the Ministry of Finance. The UNC had a slightly different plan where those monies would have been collected directly through the corporation and used within the regions. So that is the difference there. But what the UNC is campaigning and saying is that don't bother about the UNC. I mean, the PNM is that they're misleading you. There's going to be no local government reform. So I don't think people on the ground want to hear that kind of negative campaigning. I think people are very worried about the basic infrastructure, the deterioration of the basic infrastructure, the roadworks, the riverworks. Perennial flooding is an issue every year. Every time rain falls, it floods. And I don't think you've really heard any sort of concrete plans to deal with the upgrading of basic infrastructure, to deal with flooding, to deal with climate change, and to deal with all the other issues that are affecting us as a citizenry right now. Crime is also high on the agenda, but usually for local government, you tend to focus more on basic infrastructure, on flooding, on roadworks, on those things that affect your Burgesses directly in terms of those sorts of things.
But even with crime, and you have written extensively about crime in the area you once represented, because of course you're still connected to the area, even though you're not MP, you're very strong advocacy about interventions about the criminal element because it has increased in almost every part of the country. Do you see progress in that regard?
Do I see what?
Progress in terms of the calls you've made for more police patrols, more police intervention in the area that you once represented. Are you seeing improvements at all?
You would have pockets that would say, the mobile policing is really poor. A lot of neighborhoods now have gone into the neighborhood watch. They've gone to, vigilante groups. So they're making an effort. People are making an effort on their part more than the authorities. When you speak to the authorities,
well, I don't want to say a vigilante group is something we want to encourage because you said it so casually.
Yeah. Okay. No, we're not encouraging it, but there are watch groups. There are people who are they're proactive neighborhoods now, more proactive than they used to be. And when you call the authorities, they will tell you, well, we don't have the vehicles, we don't have the manpower at this time in the night, that kind of thing. So I still think there's a long way to go with respect to the government channeling resources to the TTPS and the other protective services. So people are still very disenchanted. I think they don't have the confidence in the TTPS to protect them. So it's a work in progress. I don't know what more the government has in plan to upgrade and to help what is going on. We haven't heard them say anything really specific with respect to crime.
And in terms of, because I know you're still connected to the ground, do you think there is an issue with poverty, a rise in poverty? Because the pandemic was very tough for the country, the world, the region. People lost a lot of jobs. I am personally seeing more people begging on the streets. I am hearing of situations where you're seeing longer lines and people go to give out food, and younger people asking for handouts in many areas, not only central, south. To me, it's astounding the amount of need I see on a daily basis moving around. Is that your experience also?
Definitely. I mean, I'm in business now, and I can also tell you that the business sector has slowed down. It's not what it used to be. And yes, you're right. There are a lot of people who are asking for food cards. They ask for hampers. They ask for work. You know, there's only so much we can do. So yes, right, Paul, I agree with you. There's increasing poverty, you have joblessness, you have a lot of underdeveloped youths, undeveloped. There are persons also, the young professional with qualifications who can't get jobs also. You have to look at that. So, yeah, you have all those factors, those social factors that also influence crime and also increase crime.
What's your relationship now with the UNC?
I'm part of that group that is advocating for new leadership. But basically, I'm on speaking terms with most of my colleagues.
Do you
No,
have a
there's a question.
do you have a
There's a
preference
question.
for the new
Go ahead.
leader?
Sorry?
Do you have a preference for whom you see as a good leader for the UNC?
I'd rather not say. I guess I will stick to the democratic process because there are lots of worthy persons who are interested.
Well, give us three now. Who you think could give us three now? If you don't want to narrow it down to one, give us three people who you think have the potential.
I think Vasan Bharat is good. There is Jerlene John. There is Rudal Munilal. You know, there's Rashtan Pare. You know, those persons. So the membership has to decide eventually who they will want. There's Dr. Fuad Khan. All of these guys you know, have been interested, have shown interest in the past. And I think they'd make good leaders.
The question that has arisen in the past with your and others' advocacy for new leadership is that, well, you weren't chosen to return. How do you respond to that?
That is untrue. That's not true. I still remain a member of the UNC. I have not defected. I am a member of the UNC. I'm a life member of the UNC. I want to see my party win. Whether I'm in office or out of office, I'm still a member of the party, and therefore I have a voice and I have a right in order to say, well, look, my party has been losing since 2012. We need new leadership now to win. We need change, and that is what I think I will continue to advocate for.
How do you rank or rate the performance of the opposition? Because in our construct, the opposition is very, very important in keeping the government checked and balanced.
It has been described, this current opposition has been described as the weakest opposition ever. And we see it in the parliament, we see it with the contributions from the parliamentarians, we see the action and the non-functioning of the various party arms on the ground, the women's arm, the youth arm, the party groups within the constituency. They're very weak. I saw that they've tried over the years to have national protests and failed at national protests. They failed to unite the stakeholders and the opposing forces against the government. Therefore, it's very telling that the leadership at this point in time is very weak.
Do you think, do you have a relationship with Mrs. Pasabi Sessa at all, or do you think a welcoming back of the persons who some may suggest had been sidelined would make a difference in terms of a different kind of engagement? Yourself, Vasan Bharat, Dr. Khan, you know, people who've had experience in parliament and in the party for many years.
We have offered unity after the vote in election of 2020 and 2020 offered to come in to rebuild the party. And we have ignored the calls by it's just fake. It's a pretense. It's not real. So all of the sideline members could make a difference, but we have not been engaged. And I think they like that. You divide and conquer, and you stay as leader. You know, you contract the party, you constrict growth, and you stay as leader. So I think that is how they want it. I don't have a relationship with Mr. Sabi Sessa since but this is personal for the growth of the party. Get it back on. That is what it's about.
You're breaking up a bit. And what of Mr. Pandey? Do you think Mr. Pandey could or could make a difference? Because he's such a charismatic person.
He can, he has over the years given a lot of advice freely, publicly, both the PNM and the UNC. He has always been advocating for constitutional reform, which we need constitutional reform. And I think he can be that guiding hand if he's welcomed back into the UNC. He can be a guiding light and a guiding hand with respect to rebuilding the UNC.
Can I change gears totally? Because you're a seasoned politician. And what if Tobago and the stewardship of Mr. Augustine vis-a-vis the controversial audio tape and his explanation? What are your thoughts on that?
What I can say about Tobago at this point in time, Paul, is that things are going to get worse before it gets better. I am a strong advocate for Tobago, internal self-government for Tobago. I sat on the committee that pulled the bill together through the parliament. That bill is the best version of internal self-government you will get for Tobago. I urge everyone to go and read that document. What we are seeing now with the contention between central government and the THA is something that is not going to go away anytime soon. Farley has his plan as Chief Secretary of the THA. Dr. Rowley has his plans as leader of the PNM and as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. Those plans are not meshing together, as you can clearly see. And therefore, only with internal self-government, we can get some form of structure and further progress and development for Tobago. I don't think it's going to get better.
Well, Ramona, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you all so much.
Well, I know where to come and get my prescriptions filled now.
You know where? Definitely.
Congratulations, by the way. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. So much.